feeling like another nail in the coffin of their love. But Basira, Babajide tried one last time, his voice weak with sorrow. What about our love? What about the promises we made to each other? Basira froze for a moment, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. But then she shook her head, dismissing it. Love isn't enough, Babajide. Love doesn't put food on the table or give me the life I deserve. With those words, she zipped up her bag and slung it over her shoulder. She walked past Babajide. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden light over the village, Babajide knew that he had to do something to remind Basira of the love they shared. He couldn't let Chief Tunde or the promise of wealth take away the life they had built together. But what could he do? What could he possibly offer her that would make her choose him over the life of luxury that Chief Tunde promised her? As Babajide pondered with questions, he felt the wooden pendant in his hand, its intricate carvings smooth under his fingers. He knew that the answer lay somewhere within him and that he had to find it before it was too late. The winds outside continued to whisper, urging him to take action, to fight for the love that meant more to him than anything else in the world. And as the first stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Babajide made a vow to himself. He would do whatever it took to win back Basira's heart, to remind her of the life they had built together, and to show her that true happiness could not be bought with wealth or luxury. Despite the renewed sense of hope that Babajide and Basira felt after their heartfelt night under the stars, the challenges of their daily lives continued to test their resolve. The village was abuzed with the usual activities, and the couple resumed their routine of running the shop. Yet, the shadow of Chitunde loomed large over them, casting doubts and fears that neither Babajide nor Basira could completely shake off. Days turned into weeks, and though Babajide did everything in his power to keep their bond strong, he couldn't ignore the lingering worries that Basira's heart might still be tempted by the allure of different life. Basira, too, struggled with her own emotions. The simplicity of their life, which had once brought her comfort, now felt stifling at times, and though she had promised herself to stay true to Babajide, the whispers of what could have been continued to haunt her thoughts. One afternoon, as Basira was arranging freshly baked agege bread on the counter, a group of women entered the shop. They were well dressed, their bright flowing iro and buba shining in the sunlight, and their laughter filled the small space. Basira recognized them immediately. They were the wives of some of the wealthiest men in the village, women she had once admired from afar for their opulent lifestyles. "Ah, Basira, Basira, my dear," one of the women exclaimed, her voice dripping with familiarity. "It's been so long since we last saw you. How are you there?" Basira forced a smile on her face, her heart sinking. "I'm well, thank you," she replied, trying to keep her tone light. The women exchanged knowing glances, their eyes wandering around the humble shop. "This place is cozy," another woman commented, her tone condescending. "But tell me, Basira, don't you ever wish for more?" I mean, a woman as beautiful and charming as you deserve to be surrounded by luxury. Basira smiled, faltered, and she felt a pang of doubt creep into her heart. I have everything I need here, she said quietly, though the words felt hollow. Everything, the first woman pressed, her eyes narrowing slightly, or just everything you have settled for. The words cut through Basira like a knife, and she felt the weight of the old doubts resurface. Had she really settled for less? Was she missing out on a life that could offer her more than just the simple comforts of home and love? The women before her were draped in fine jewelry, their fingers adorned with rings that sparkled in the light, and their lives seemed like a dream compared to the reality she faced every day. I, Basira began, but she was interrupted by the arrival of Chitunde. The women immediately straightened up, their expressions changing from mild amusement to admiration. Chitunde walked into the shop with his usual air of confidence, his presence commanding attention. He greeted the women warmly, but his eyes were fixed on Basira, a smile playing on his lips. Basira, it's always a pleasure to see you, he said smoothly, his voice rich and inviting. How is my favorite bean seller today? Basira's heart skipped a beat. A mix of emotions swelling within her. She had tried to avoid Chief Tunde as much as possible since the night she and Babajide had made their promises to each other. But here he was, in the flesh, with his charming smile and his undeniable charisma. I'm fine, Chief, she replied, keeping her voice steady, though she could feel the tension in the air. Chief Tunde nodded, his eyes never leaving her. I'm glad to hear that. You know, Basira, I have been thinking a lot about our last conversation. I still believe you deserve more than this. The women around them giggled, their eyes darting between Basira and Chief Tunde, as if they were witnessing something scandalous. Basira felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment, but she didn't know how to respond. The chief's words were like a serene's call, tempting her with the promise of a life she had only dreamed of. Before she could find her voice, Babajide walked into the shop, carrying a large bag of beans over his shoulder. He froze when he saw Chief Tunde, and his eyes narrowed slightly. He recognized the look in the chief's eyes, the way he was staring at Basira, and it set his nerves on edge. Chief Tunde, Babajide greeted, trying to keep his tone civil. Is there something I can help you with? Chief Tunde turned to face Babajide, his smile never wavering. Ah, Babajide, I was just having a friendly chat with your lovely wife. She's a remarkable woman, you know. I do know, Babajide replied, his voice tight. The tension in the room was palpable, and the women watched the exchange with interest, as if it were a scene of a play. Basira could feel the weight of their states, and it only added to the pressure she felt inside. Well, I won't keep you any longer, Chief Tunde said, sensing the tension. But do remember, Basira, my offer still stands. You deserve the best, and I can give it to you. With that, Chief Tunde turned on his heel, and left the shop, leaving a heavy silence in his wake. The women followed him out, their laughter echoing through the door as they disappeared down the street. Babajide watched them go, his heart pounding in his chest. He turned to Basira, who was staring at the floor, her expressions unbearable, unreadable. Basira, he began, his voice filled with concern. Are you okay? She looked up at him, her eyes filled with confusion and doubt. I don't know, Babajide, she whispered. I really don't know. Babajide felt his heart break at her words. He had done everything he could to remind her of the life they had built together, but it was clear that the temptation of a different life still had its grip on her. He didn't know what else he could do to convince her that their love was worth more than anything Chief Tunde could offer. But as much as it pained him, Babajide knew that he couldn't control Basira's heart. She had to make her own decision, and all he could do was hope that she could choose him, choose the life they had built together. As the days went on, Babajide noticed that Basira became more distant, lost in her thoughts. She was still kind and caring, but there was a sadness in her eyes that he couldn't ignore. The doubts that had been planted by Chief Tunde and the women in the shop had taken root, and Babajide could feel it growing between them like a dark shadow. One evening, as they sat together after closing the shop, Babajide decided to confront the issue once and for all. Basira, he began, his voice soft but firm. We need to talk. Basira looked up at him, her eyes heavy with the weight of her emotions. What is it again, Babajide? I can see that you are struggling, he said, reaching out to take her hand in his. I know that you are still tempted by what Chief Tunde has offered you. But I need to know, Basira, do you still want this life? Do you still want us? Tears welled up in Basira's eyes, and she looked away, unable to meet his gaze. I don't know, Babajide, she whispered, her voice filled with pain. I don't know what I want anymore. The words hung in the air like a dark cloud, and Babajide felt a deep sense of despair settle in his chest. He had fought so hard to save their relationship, but it was clear that the battle wasn't over. I love you, Basira, Babajide said, his voice breaking, but I can't make this decision for you. All I can do is hope that you will remember the love we share and the life we have built together. But if you truly believe that you would be happier with Chief Tunde, then I won't stand in your way. Basira's heart ached at his words, and she felt the weight of her own indecision crushing on her. She loved Babajide, but the temptation of a different life was still strong, pulling her in two directions at once. I need time, Babajide, she said finally, her voice trembling. I need time to think, to figure out what I really want. Babajide nodded, although the pain in his eyes was evidence. Take all the time you need, he said softly, but just know that I love you, and I am here for you no matter what you decide. As they sat there in silence, the distance between them felt wider than ever, and Babajide couldn't shake the feelings that the life they had once shared was slipping through his fingers. And as the night wore on, The winds outside whispered once again, carrying with them the echoes of doubt, fear, and uncertainty. Basira's indecision gnawed at her for days, but each time she weighed the options in her mind, the scales seemed to tip further in favor of Chief Tunde's offer, the allure of wealth, the luxury, and the promise of a life free from the struggles of everyday survival became increasingly irresistible. The more she thought about it, the more she convinced herself that a life of comfort and ease was within her reach, and that perhaps she deserved it. One afternoon, as she sat alone in the shop, the door cracked open and Chief Tunde walked in, his presence commanding as always. He smiled at Basira, who looked up from her thoughts, startled but strangely relieved to see him. Basira, Chief Tunde greeted warmly. I have been thinking about you. I know you are still weighing my offer, but life is too short to live with regrets. You deserve to be happy, to live a life of luxury and comfort. Why waste your time in this small shop when you could have so much more? Basira felt resolve weakened under his gaze. She imagined herself draped in fine clothes, living in a grand house, surrounded by everything she had ever wanted. The image was intoxicating, and it clouded her judgment. I, I don't know, Chief Tunde, she stammered, though the doubt in her voice was barely there. Chief Tunde stepped closer, his voice smooth and persuasive. Think about it, Basira. Think over again. A life of wealth with no worries, no struggles. You could have anything you want. All you have to do is say yes. Basira felt a pang of guilt as she thought of Babajide, of the life they had built together. But that life seemed so small, so insignificant compared to what Chief Tunde was offering. The guilt was quickly overshadowed by her desire for more and more than Babajide could ever give to her. Yes, Basira whispered, the word escaping her lips. Before she could stop it, she looked up at Chief Tunde, her decision made. Yes, I want that life. Chief Tunde smiled, widened. You have made the right choice, Basira. I will take care of everything. You won't regret this. But deep down, Basira felt ignoring sensation, a small voice warning her of the consequences of her choice. Yet, she silenced it with thoughts of wealth and luxury. That evening, when Babajide returned home from a long day of work, he found Basira packing her belongings. His heart sank and panic seized him. Basira, Babajide said, his voice trembling as he stepped closer to her. What are you doing? Why are you packing? Basira avoided his gaze, focusing on folding her clothes. I am leaving, Babajide, she said coldly. I have decided to go with Chief Tunde. Babajide's heart chattered at her words. He dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. No, Basira, please, please, he pleaded, his voice breaking with desperation. Don't leave me, please. I love you. We can walk through this together. Don't throw away everything we have built. But Basira's heart had hardened. The image of the life Chief Tunde had promised was too strong, and Babajide's tears only seemed to irritate her. She turned to him, her face twisted with disdain. Enough! Enough of all this, Babajide, she shouted, her voice sharp. I am tired of this life. I am tired of struggling day after day, scraping by while others live in luxury. I deserve more, and Chiltunde can give it to me. You can't, but you can't. Babajide recoiled as if struck. He had never seen this side of Basira before. The woman he loved, the woman he had vowed to spend his life with, was now a stranger to him. His heart ached as he watched her continue packing. Each item she placed in her bag, feeling like another nail in the coffin of their love. But Basira, Babajide tried one last time, his voice weak with sorrow. What about our love? What about the promises we made to each other? Basira froze for a moment, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. But then she shook her head, dismissing it. Love isn't enough, Babajide. Love doesn't put food on the table or give me the life I deserve. With those words, she zipped up her bag and slung it over her shoulder. She walked past Babajide, who was still on his knees, tears streaming down his face. As she reached the door, she turned back to him one last time. Goodbye, Babajide, she said, her voice devoid of emotion. I hope you find happiness somehow. And with that, she walked out of the door, leaving Babajide alone, his heart shattered and his world crumbling around him. Chief Tunde welcomed Basira into his grand home with open arms. The house was everything she had dreamed of and more. Lavishly decorated, filled with expensive furnitures and adorned with fine art. Basira marveled at the beauty of her new surroundings, her doubts momentarily forgotten. For a while, life seemed like a dream. Chief Tunde showered Basira with gifts, gold jewelry, beautiful clothes, and anything else she desired. She attended parties with the wealthy elites, rubbed shoulders with influential people, and basked in the luxury she had longed for. The life she had imagined was finally hers, and it was as dazzling as she had hoped for. But as the days turned into weeks, Basira began to notice things she had overlooked in her initial excitement. Chief Tunde was not the attentive, doting partner she had imagined he would be. He was often busy with work or away on business trips, leaving Basira alone in the grand house. When he was home, his attention was divided. His affection for her fleeting and superficial. One evening, as she prepared for yet another party, Basira heard voices coming from the living room. Curiosity piqued. She quietly approached and peeked around the corner. To her shock, she saw Chief Tunde with another woman, a stunning, elegant lady, dressed in a gown that reviled anything Basira owned. The two were laughing, their intimacy clear. Basira's heart pounded in her chest as she watched them. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. She had left everything behind for this man, believing he would cherish her, only to discover that she was just one of many. Feeling sick to her stomach, Basira retreated to her room, her mind racing. The reality of her situation began to sink in. Chief Tunde was a man of wealth and power, and with that came a lifestyle she had never truly understood. He had other women, women who were just as beautiful and desirable as she was, if not more so. She was not special to him. She was just another trophy, another conquest to display. The glittering life she had dreamed of was nothing more than a gilt cage. She had traded the love and warmth of Babajide for cold luxury and empty promises. As the night wore on, Basira lay in her lavish bed, staring up at the ceiling, tears streaming down her face. She thought of Babajide, of the life they had shared and the love he had given her so freely. She realized now, too late, that she had made a terrible mistake. The wealth and luxury she had coveted had come at a cost far greater than she had anticipated. She had lost the one person who had truly loved her, who had been there for her through thick and thin. But now there was no going back. Babajide was gone, and she was trapped in a world that was as empty and hollow as the promises Chief Tunde had made to her. The days passed, and Basira disillusionment only grew. She saw less and less of Chief Tunde, who was often away on business trip or with his other women. The once glamorous party began to feel like a chore, and the expensive gifts that once thrilled her now felt like a burden. She found herself missing the simplicity of her old life, the warmth of Babajide's smile, and the comfort of their small home. She missed the love that had once filled her heart, a love that had been genuine and pure, not tainted by greed or ambition. One day, as she wandered through the empty halls of Chief Tunde mansion, Basira overheard a conversation between two of the house staff. They spoke in hushed tones, but their words were clear enough for her to understand. "Did you hear? Chief Tunde has a new woman," one of the mates whispered. "She's even more beautiful than the last one. Poor Basira. She doesn't even know." "Well, that is how it is with these rich men," the other maid replied. "They take what they want, and when they get bored, they move on to the next one. It's only a matter of time before Basira is replaced." Basira felt a cold shiver run down her spine. She knew now that she had never truly meant anything to Chief Tunde. She was just another prize, another woman to add to his collections. The realization was like a dagger to her heart, and she felt the full weight of her mistake crashing down on her. That evening, when Chief Tunde returned home, Basira confronted him. "Tunde," she said, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and sorrow, "how many women are there?" Chief Tunde looked at her, his expression unreadable. "What do you mean, Basira?" "You know exactly what I mean," she snapped, tears welling up in her eyes. "I know about the other women. I thought I meant something to you, but I was just another one of your playthings, wasn't I?" Chief Tunde sighed, as if the conversation bored him. "Basira, you are a beautiful woman, and I have given you everything you could ever want. But you have to understand this. This is how it works here, in my world. You are not the only one, and you never will be." Basira felt her heart break over again. The man she had left everything for had never loved her, and never cared for her in the way she had hoped for. She had traded true love for wealth, and now she was left with nothing but the bitter taste of regret. I was a fool, used, she whispered, more to herself than to him. I gave up everything for this, for you, and now I have nothing. Chief Tunde looked at her, his expression indifferent. You have wealth, Basira. You have comfort. That is more than most people can say. But I don't have love, Basira shot back, her voice choked with emotion. I don't have the one thing that truly matters. Chief Tunde shrugged, as if her words meant nothing to him. Love is overrated, Basira. Wealth is what matters in this world. But as Basira looked at him, she knew that he was wrong. Wealth could buy many things, but it can't buy happiness, and it couldn't buy love. She had been blind to that truth, but now it was clear as day. As she stood there staring at the man who had lured her away from everything she had ever known, Basira realized that she had made the biggest mistake of her life, and now there was no way to undo it. Days turned into weeks, and Basira's once glittering life had dulled into a monotonous routine of loneliness and regret. The grand mansion that had once felt like a palace now felt like a prison. The luxurious lifestyle that had captivated her heart had all but faded, replaced with a deep sense of loss and emptiness. Chief Tunde was rarely at home, and when he was, his attention was always elsewhere. Basira had become an afterthought, a relic of his past conquest. The new woman in his life, Sheyi, was the center of his world now. She was younger, more vibrant, and every bit as beautiful as Basira had once been. Sheyi was the new queen of the mansion, and everyone in the household, including Basira, knew it. One afternoon, while Chief Tunde was away on one of his frequent business trips, Basira and Sheyi crossed paths in the hallway. Sheyi was draped in a stunning gown, one of the many gifts Chief Tunde had showered her with. She strutted through the halls with an air of superiority, her head held high as if she owned the place. Basira couldn't suppress the anger that had been building inside her. She had sacrificed everything for this life, only to be discarded like yesterday's news. And now, this woman, this intruder, was living the life that had once been hers. Isn't it enough that you have taken everything from me? Basira snapped, her voice trembling with a mix of anger and frustration. Do you have to flaunt it in my face too? Sheyi turned to face Basira, a smirk playing on her lips. Taking everything from you? She mocked, her tone dripping with condescension. I didn't take anything, Basira. You lost it all on your own. If you couldn't keep Tunde's attention, that is your problem, not mine. Basira's blood boiled at Sheyi's words. She had never felt such anger before, not even when she had left Babajide. Without thinking, she longed at Sheyi, grabbing her arm. You have no idea what I have been through, she shouted, her voice filled with desperation. You don't deserve this life. Sheyi yanked her arm free and slapped Basira hard across the face. The sound echoed through the hallway, and for a moment there was nothing but silence. between them. Basira's cheek stung, but the pain was nothing compared to the humiliation she felt. You are pathetic, Sheyi sneered, her eyes cold. No wonder Tunde has moved on. You are just a washed up, bitter woman. You should be grateful I let you stay in this house at all. Basira felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she refused to let them down in front of Sheyi. Without another word, she turned and ran to her room, slamming the door behind her. She collapsed on the bed, and the tears finally breaking free, she cried until her throat was raw and her body was exhausted. The reality of her situation sinking in deeper than ever before. When Chief Tunde returned later that evening, Basira gathered her courage and confronted him. She needed to tell him about what had happened, to plead with him to see reason, to understand how much she was hurting. Tunde, we need to talk, she said, trying to keep her voice steady as she approached him. He glanced at her briefly before turning his attention back to his phone. What is it, Basira? He asked, his tone indifferent. It's about Sheyi, she began, her voice trembling. She's treating me terribly. She slapped me today and is that all? Chief Tunde interrupted, not even bothering to look up from his phone. His lack of concern felt like a slap in the face. Is that all, Basira? Is that all? Basira repeated, her voice raising with disbelief. Tunde, she's making my life miserable. I can't live like this anymore. Chief Tunde sighed, finally setting his phone down and looking at Basira with irritation. Basira, you know you had your time. Now it's Sheyi's turn. You are the housewife now, remember. Let her enjoy what you have already had. If you can't deal with that, then maybe you should think about leaving. Basira stared at him in shock, unable to believe what she was hearing. Leave, she whispered, her voice barely audible. You want me to leave? Look, Chief Tunde said, his tone dismissive. You are lucky I even let you stay here after I moved on. If you are not happy, you know where the door is. Basira's heart chattered all over again. The man she had left everything for was now telling her to leave, as if she were nothing more than an inconvenience. The life she had chosen, the wealth she had once coveted, had turned into a nightmare, and now she had nowhere to turn to, no one to help her. She spent the night in tears, the realities of her situation becoming clearer with each passing hour. The luxuries of lifestyles, the parties, the wealth, none of it mattered anymore. It was all lies, a cruel joke played on her by a man who had never truly cared for her. The days following her confrontation with Chief Tunde were some of the loneliest, most painful of Basira's life. Tunde's words haunted her. You are lucky I even let you stay, and the realization that she had been replaced so easily and coldly turned at her soul. Gone were the lavish parties and the constant stream of gifts. Gone were the promises of a life filled with luxury and ease. Basira was no longer the center of Chief Tunde's attention. She had become a mere afterthought in the grand scheme of his life. Sheyi was the new queen. The house that had once felt like a palace now felt like a cage, each room a reminder of what she had lost and the choices that had led her to this point. The staff who had once treated her with respect now barely acknowledged her presence. Basira was left alone with her thoughts day after day. The silence of the mansion weighed heavily on her. She often found herself sitting in the grand living room, staring out the window at the beautiful gardens, her mind drifting back to her lifestyle with Babajide. She thought of their small shop, the smell of freshly baked agege bread, and the warmth of Babajide's smile. She thought of the nights they had spent together talking and dreaming under the stars, and the love they had shared, a love that was real, true, and untainted by greed. But those memories only brought more pain, for they reminded her of what she had thrown away. She had shown wealth over love, and now she was paying the price. One day, unable to bear the loneliness any longer, Basira decided to confront Chief Tunde once more. She needed answers, needed to understand why he had changed so much, why he had discarded her so easily. When he returned that evening, Basira met him at the door, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. Tunde, we need to talk, she said, her voice shaking but resolute. Chief Tunde sighed, clearly irritated by her persistence. What now, Basira? Why are you treating me like this? Basira asked, her voice breaking. I thought you cared about me, but now you are treating me like I'm nothing. I gave up everything for you. Tunde, why are you doing this? Sheyi is the one who makes me happy now, and if you can't accept that, then maybe it's time for you to go. But Tunde, Basira pleaded, tears streaming down her face. I love you. I thought we had something special. Chief Tunde's face twisted into a cruel smile. Love? Basira, love is foolish. Love is for fools. What we had was an arrangement, nothing more. You enjoyed the luxury, the wealth, and now that your time is up, you want to cling to something that was never real. Face it, Basira. You better face it. You were just another woman in my life, and now I have moved on. The words cut through Basira like a knife, and she felt her world crumbling around her. She had never felt so alone, so betrayed. She had given everything for a man who had never truly loved her, and now she was left with nothing. Get out of my house if you don't like it, Chief Tunde added, his voice harsh and unforgiving. I won't say it again. Basira stood there, stunned, her heart breaking into a million pieces. She realized then that she had lost everything, her home, her love, her dignity, all because of her greed, her desire for a life that had never been meant for her. As Chief Tunde walked past her without a second glance, Basira sank to the floor, her tears falling freely. She had made her choice, and now she was living with the consequences, and there was no one to blame but herself. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Basira's world continued to spiral into darkness. The mansion that once symbolized her dreams had become a place of torment, filled with memories of a love that never truly existed. Chief Tunde had all but abandoned her, focusing entirely on Sheyi, who now enjoyed all the luxury Basira once held dear. Basira's attempts to rekindle any sense of warmth or affection with Chitunde were met with cold indifference or outright hostility. Her once sparkling eyes were now dull with sorrow, and vibrancy that had once defined her had faded away, leaving only a shell of the woman who used to be. Chitunde's neglect of Basira grew worse with time. Her pleas for attention, for love, were ignored, and the walls of the grand mansion seemed to close in on her in on her more each day. She had tried to fight for his love, to remind him of what they had once shared, but it was clear now that those days were long gone, if they had ever truly existed at all. The pain of her loneliness, the regret of her choice, and the realization that she had thrown away true love for a halo of wealth. Basira could no longer bear the loneliness, the emptiness that consumed her every waking moment. She made her way to the kitchen, where the staff, now loyal only to Sheyi, barely acknowledged her presence. She ignored their cold stares and retrieved a small bottle from the back of a cupboard. It was something she had found in a moment of desperation, a vial of sleeping pills that had been keeping her just in case. With trembling hands, Basira returned to her room and sat on the edge of the bed, the bottle clutched tightly in her hand. Tears streamed down her face as she unscrewed the cap, the weight of her choice pressing down on her like a heavy burden. She poured out the pills into her hand, staring at them through blurred vision. In that moment, the memory of the past flooded back. The smell of freshly baked agege bread, the warmth of Babajide's embrace, the laughter they had in their small humble home. She realized too late that what she had with Babajide was the kind of love that money could never buy, a love that she had foolishly thrown away. With a deep, shuddering breath, Basira swallowed the pills, one by one, tears falling onto the bed sheets. She lay down. As she drifts into unconsciousness, Basira's thoughts turned to Babajide, and she whispered his name, her voice barely audible. "I'm so sorry, Babajide. Forgive me." Her eyes closed, and the darkness finally claimed her. Chitunde returned home late that night, his mind occupied with thoughts of his business and the lavish lifestyle he had built for himself. As he walked through the quiet halls of his mansion, he noticed that the house felt different, quieter, more still. He brushed off the feeling and made his way to Sheyi's room. But as he passed Basira's door, something made him pause. He hadn't paid much attention to her in months. She was just a relic of his past, a woman who had once amused him but was now nothing more than a nuisance. Still, a strange sense of unease settled over him, and he hesitated before opening her door. The room was dark, the only light coming from the faint glow of the fireplace. He saw Basira laying on the bed, her body still, her face turned away from him. For a moment, he thought she was just sleeping, but something about the scene felt wrong. He stepped closer, his eyes beginning to pound in his chest. "Basira," he called softly, but there was no response. He reached out and touched her shoulder, but her body was cold, lifeless. Panic surged through him as he turned her over and the empty pill bottle rolled from her hand onto the ground. Chief Tunde saw the look of pain etched on her face, even in death. For the first time in his life, in years, a wave of emotion washed over him. He had never loved Basira, not truly, but not seeing her like this, so broken, so defeated, stirred something deep inside him. Guilt, regrets, maybe even a hint of sorrow. But it was too late. He stood there for what felt like an eternity, staring at her lifeless body, the weight of his action pressing down on him. He had pursued wealth, power, and pleasure at the expense of everything else, and now it had cost him more than he ever anticipated. The woman had once been his partner, who had given up everything for him, was gone. The days that followed were filled with emptiness. The mansion, once filled with laughter and life, felt like a tomb. Chief Tunde couldn't escape the memories of Basira, her broken spirit, her tragic end, the wealth, the parties, and the attention from others no longer brought him the satisfaction they once had. The hollowness in his heart grew with each passing day. Sheyi, sensing the change in him, eventually left as well, seeking a man who could provide her with the life of luxury she craved. Chief Tunde was left alone in his grand mansion, surrounded by the riches he had accumulated, but with nothing to show for it. No love, no true companionship, only the echoes of his past mistakes. In the end, Chief Tunde realized that he had won nothing. He had lost all things that truly mattered. Someone who had once loved him unconditionally, who had believed in him even when he didn't deserve it, and now he was left with nothing but the memory of a woman whose life he had destroyed, and the bitter taste of regret that would haunt him for the rest of his days. The news of Basira's death spread quickly through the town. People whispered about the woman who had left her humble beginnings, her loving husband, for a life of luxury, only to meet such a tragic end. They spoke of Chief Tunde, the man who had taken her in, only to cast her aside when she was no longer useful to him. Then Babajide heard the news as well, and though his heart ached with the loss of the woman he had once loved, he found some solace in the fact that he had stayed true to himself. He continued to run his beans and agege bread business, the shop always filled with warmth of laughter, the smell of delicious food, and the love of his loyal customers. Babajide knew that life was about more than wealth and status. It was about love, kindness, and staying true to the people who truly mattered. And though he mourned the loss of Basira, he knew that he had made the right choice in staying true to his values, even when she had chosen a different path. In the end, both Basira and Chief Tunde paid the price for their greed, for a life that was never truly theirs. And as the years went by, the memory of their tragic tale served as a warning to others, a reminder that true happiness could never be bought, only earned through love, hard work, and staying true to oneself. Thank you so much for watching this story. Kindly drop in the comment section your moral value about this story. Please do not forget to give this story a thumbs up, subscribe, and share to your loved ones and your family. Until I bring another interesting, heartwarming story your way. Bye.